Counterpicking is an inherent part of our gameplay experience in Overwatch. Knowing what is causing you trouble to then decide which hero you should swap to can make or break games. While pro players in tournaments usually resort to only picking from a very small pool of heroes that they deem optimal, most of us are not, surprise surprise, pro players. So rather than trying to mimic those that mastered the game, we should keep our heads in our own matches and always be observant of what we should swap to in order to increase our chances of winning. Since counterpicks are such an inherent part of Overwatch, I decided this would be a good topic to use for my Explain series. So today we'll talk about basic and advanced counters in Overwatch. Now without further ado, let's get right into it. When discussing counter picks, it is important to know which level of play we're talking about, because how you should counter something can vary wildly depending on your environment. For the sake of simplicity, this video will focus solely on the competitive ladder, where hero comps usually tend to be a bit more organized than in quick play or arcade. On a basic level, every hero in the game has been deliberately designed with weaknesses that other heroes can exploit. We're talking about something like Winston counters Genji, Reaper counters Winston, McCree counters Reaper, and so on. These are basic counters that exist by design. I'm not gonna go through every possible counter for every possible hero in this video, but I'll leave a link in the description below to a video from Force Gaming that talks about these basic designed counters for every single hero. Even though he made that video not too long after launch, most of the things he mentions are still obviously applicable. Counterpicking can get a little more difficult if we factor in player skill as well. For example, while McCree has been designed to counter flankers like Tracer and Genji, it is still a very skill-based matchup. McCree in particular is a hero that relies almost entirely on pinpoint accuracy. What makes him a good counter for flankers is his flashbang. In most encounters, a flashbang should give a player a guaranteed kill on heroes that he was designed to counter, disregarding player skill. However, a skilled Genji or Tracer can obviously play around said flashbang, meaning once the McCree player in question wasted his flashbang, it becomes an even match that is entirely based on situational advantages and skill. To make a long story short, the guy who's better at shooting usually wins that engagement. But there's more to it than just that. Another good example would be Soldier 76, who by design is supposed to counter Pharah, when in reality it is an uneven matchup in favor of the Pharah player, on a basic level at least. What I mean is just that picking up a Soldier does not automatically shut down a Pharah quite as easily as a Reaper would do to a Winston, for example. The Soldier player only becomes a counter if he is either disproportionately better at playing Soldier than the Pharah is at her own hero, or if situational advantages favor the Soldier. For example, if the map doesn't offer a lot of cover for the Pharah to hide behind and fall back to. The moral of this story is that this is an uneven matchup by skill, even though one hero was designed to counter the other. Reason being that one hero simply takes a lot more effort to get value out of than the other. This power imbalance shifts very quickly, however, if the Soldier player in question provides more than an average level of skill. So in this matchup, it is important to look not only at the 1v1 hero matchup and counters by design. It is important to keep in mind if the map favors one more than the other. It is also important to keep in mind how good each participant is at playing their respective hero, and lastly, support from other teammates is just as significant of a factor. Countering a Pharah Mercy combo as a lonely Soldier is near impossible, and surviving a Zenyatta Soldier combo can be just as impossible for a Pharah. And this leads us to the next form of counter, or more so, low-key sort of counter, called contesting. Sometimes the players on your team simply don't provide the necessary skill sets required to shut down a particular hero on the enemy team. In that case, the next best thing that this team should do is focusing on contesting them. There are different ways of contesting different heroes. For example, if nobody on your team is good enough of a shot to shut down a Pharah individually by using McCree or Widowmaker, then another option could be using the aforementioned Soldier Zenyatta combo. By using Discord Orb to increase the damage that she receives, every shot that your Soldier lands becomes more significant, because that means she has to drop all this guy sooner, which makes her less impactful. If your problem is a Reaper or Tracer that keeps flanking your backline without ever getting punished because they constantly juke your McCree and bait his flashbang, then Soldier can be a good choice again. When it comes to contesting a hero, the best way is usually to take advantage of sustained damage. Soldier is obviously one of the best choices when it comes to this very job. If you can't always outright kill them, then just the fact that you constantly chip health off of them means that they can't just do as they please, and that is effectively the point of contesting, just keeping constant pressure on them. Another way of contesting a hero is called peeling. While this only vaguely relates to contesting in that it has another purpose, it is still reasonably similar. You can pretty much take that in a rather literal sense. Peeling means that you make it your job to get an enemy off of your teammate. Usually this relates to flanking type heroes harassing your supports. In this case, a hero that is great for this job is Lucio. Lucio as well might not be able to outright kill a Tracer or Genji, but he has the abilities necessary to pressure them just enough to successfully peel them off of your main healer. The ability that makes him so strong for this particular job is his right click, which pushes enemies away. Naturally, other heroes with similar abilities are great for this job as well. That includes D.Va, Winston, and even Doomfist. The last form of countering that I would love to highlight is denying value. Much in the same sense where you try to contest an enemy rather than killing them through a counter, denying value to an enemy has a similar goal. For example, your Genji skills might not be quite good enough to take out a troublesome Widowmaker. So rather than constantly running your face into that wall just to die over and over again, you pick up a hero that makes it so said Widowmaker is nowhere near as impactful. Reinhardt and Orisa are great for that job since obviously she cannot shoot through shields. Winston's barrier can deny value much in the same way, while he's obviously also designed to be able to take her out by using his mobility, and D.Va can do that as well. In fact, D.Va and Reinhardt are probably some of the strongest heroes when it comes to denying value to the enemies. As long as Reinhardt's shield takes damage rather than his teammates, the enemies need much more time to charge their ultimates, which is a really good bit of value denied. D.Va's defense matrix denies damage from all sorts of sources, but particularly heroes like Junkrat, Pharah, and Soldier can suffer greatly from that if they don't know how to play around it. And the very last thing that you should always keep in mind is that skill counters a lack of skill, meaning especially once you get higher up in the ranks, playing counters by hero design is often not enough to win matches. It becomes more important to play those counter picks well and outplay the opposition. So ultimately it is always in your responsibility to make those decisions while keeping your and your teammates' levels of skill in mind. Trying to play to everyone's strong points often makes a lot of sense because if a player is very experienced on a hero, then odds are that they know how to deal with their counters. So as long as the enemies aren't better at playing their counter than they are at playing their mains, you should theoretically have an advantage. But obviously it is important to keep the entire team calm in mind and make sure to support one another wherever possible while trying to play the objective. So just to summarize really quickly, it's important to know which heroes are designed to counter others. That's basic knowledge that you'll rely on to make your decisions when counterpicking, but it is just as important to keep the level of skill in mind that you're dealing with, i.e. how good is the enemy at playing their hero and can you play their counters sufficiently or well enough to beat them. If nobody on your team has the skills necessary to counter a troublemaker, your best course of action is to either try to keep them contested or deny them value. But even when everything is said and done, the only thing that decides who wins a matchup is not Jeff and the Overwatch team, but the skill that you and your team bring to the table. But this is me done for the day, so I talk about basic and advanced counters in Overwatch. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and hope to see you all next time.
I dlatego Hanzo grasz.
No ale dobrze mi idzie.
To niezły psychopata z ciebie.
Ja rozumiem co ty mówisz, ale nie jestem Polak.
Digga, sind alle Polen oder was?
Where are you from?
I'm that other guy that talked, that's the place where I'm from.
No jak będą mieli farę, to jesteśmy w dupie, kurwa.
Yeah, he's right.
Dobra, zestrzelę. Co za...
I found my man! I found my countryman, lads!